Simon, we're here in the director's box. Over there in the Devonport end is where you used to stand. How did you make that journey? It's been a long journey, but tell us about it.
It's been a very long journey. I first stood at the Devonport end in September 1966, nearly 50 years ago. And in that time, I've lived in Oxford, in London, in Hong Kong, in New Jersey, and now in Pennsylvania. So also in that time, I've got married, I've had 3 kids, I've been involved in a startup business, and made some money. And so, back here trying to help the club.
So you can take the Devonport Ender out of Plymouth, but you can't take Plymouth out of the Devonport Ender, is that right?
I don't think you can take the Devonport Ender out of the Devonport. You can't take the Devonport End out of the Devonport Ender. It feels strange to be up here. I must say I'm kind of enjoying the different perspective, but I suspect that when I end up spending more time in England, I'll end up spending a bit of time in the Devonport End as well.
We look forward to having you here, but just tell us the sort of plans you have. I mean, it's early days, of course it is, but just tell us those plans you've got and the ideas you've got that you're going to
Yeah, plans I think is a bit of a strong word, as John Morgan always likes to say. John Morgan, my brother-in-law and also a new director. We've spent a lot of time thinking about business of football over the last 4 or 5 months, and obviously over the last week or so for me, and for the last month or so for John, we've spent a lot of time engaging with Argyle. So really trying to match where Argyle is to how we see the business of football. And the ideas we have are really, I think, very consistent with the way the club's been run over the last 4 or 5 years. We think that the club is suffering from a lack of investment by previous administrations, and clearly the amount of investment that's been able to be done by this administration, by James and the rest of the board, Martin, and so on, has been limited by the financial stresses. So we hope that a bit of money in will be used for long-term investment. We think that our goal is exactly aligned with that of James and the board. We want to see this club be a vital part of the community, and we want people to come here because they are die-hard fans, but also because they see the club as an integral part of life in Plymouth, Devon and Cornwall. So that, we learnt during doing due diligence that that's completely aligned with the view of James and the existing board. I think if we think there should be any changes, it's probably to make your life, Rick, a little bit more difficult, as if it hasn't been difficult enough over the last 5 years.
So you're going to say easier then?
No, not easier at all.
Okay.
I think I've got no baggage here. I'm a long-term fan. My investment here is purely because I'm a fan. It's not about financial returns. It's about emotional engagement. It's about bringing some of my expertise, if I have any, to the club and helping out. But the club doesn't need my business expertise. So I think what the club can benefit from, or that I can bring to the club, is that engagement with the fans. And I think the club, it's time for us to get more aggressive about singing the praises of this club. Martin, the CEO, James as chairman, the rest of the board, the rest of the staff have done a fantastic job over the last 5 years of stabilising the finances at Argyle, stabilising performances on the pitch, but above all of building the role that Argyle plays in the community. And I think we haven't sung our praises enough. So I think we need to start emphasising to the people of Plymouth that Argyle is not just a football club, it's a club. We have a fantastic community trust, which hardly anybody knows about, and I think that's wrong. We have a wonderful academy that does work all over Devon and Cornwall in training youngsters in football, in training teenagers academically. And I think that that's a fantastic role for the club, and that's a way for us to build support. In some ways the club is built around a core of die-hard supporters, but in order to be financially stable, we have to have supporters who are not die-hard. We have to have people who love what Argyle does in the community, not just looking forward to success on the pitch. And I think that's an important role that I want to play.
You mentioned about fan engagement, and you've come in, you've hit the ground running with that, you've already engaged with fans.
Yes.
And what have you learned in those early days?
I've learned a lot. I've learned that there are many fan groups, and I need to be probably a bit more careful about how I select the fan groups with which I engage. I think above all I've learned that rather than selecting individual fan groups, I need to engage with fans as a whole, and probably the best way of doing that is, again, to make your life more difficult, through the Argyle website, through the Argyle social media, and I hope that I can kind of supplement that rather than having to go, to each fan group individually. I have a full-time job. My clients still expect me to operate 24 hours a day on their behalf, so I have to kind of make it 26 hours a day and devote a little bit of time to Argyle. But clearly I need to do that in an efficient way, and I think that the best way for me to do that will be via the club. That said, I think you've already learnt, Rick, it's hard to keep me quiet. Occasionally I'll engage with various fan groups. I've actually got a Q&A set up with the guys at Basotti. They're going to be collating questions for me, and I'll write up some answers, and we'll post those on the Argyle site and link to that from the Basotti site. So, that's one way of doing it. But clearly, although I very much admire the Basotti site, there are others, and we can't afford to play favourites. So, the way that I'm going to engage, I don't quite know. My favourite way so far has been turning up at the Fans Fest. My wife, John Morgan, and I joined in for what we thought was going to be 10 minutes, ended up having a beer and a pasty and staying for an hour. I've just spoken to Gary and said, can he snag me a ticket for Sunday? And I believe it's actually an open bar, so I don't need one. So, that's great. But we want to feel that fans can approach me, they can approach my wife, they can approach John Morgan. If they've got any questions, they just want to say hello. Please shake our hands, say hello. You can see what we look like, I think, on the Argyle website. I have to tell you, I've shaved my beard off. But, if you think it's a bloke who's me, please say hello.
Finally, you mentioned your first game earlier on. Your last one wasn't bad either, was it?
The last game was fantastic. I was delighted that John Morgan invited Kevin Hodges to come and see it. And I thought, at the academy, that, we had those goals from academy players, by Lewis in particular. I think he was battling with the bloke from Leicester City. Can't remember his name. No, I can't remember his name.
Oh, okay.
For goal of the season with Lewis's first goal. So it was fantastic. In some ways a meaningless game. Fantastic to see Derek getting the youngsters out. Fantastic to see 5 players from the academy finishing on the field, and I think that the work of the academy is a key part of, I think, Argyle going forward, along with the community trust.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. We look forward to working alongside you and with you, and hope this is the dawn of yet another new era.
Let's hope so. I look forward to meeting all the supporters.